He was the smallest firefly in the forest, and he had forgotten how to shine. He thought his light had gone out forever. He thought he was broken beyond repair. All the other fireflies danced in the sky. Their lights were brilliant, bold, and beautiful. They painted the night with streaks of gold and green. He watched them from a lonely leaf, hidden in the shadows, feeling his own emptiness. He remembered a time when his own light had been part of that celestial ballet, a time when he too could join the symphony of the stars. Now, that memory felt like a story about someone else, a distant echo from a life he no longer lived. He saw the joy in their flight, the effortless way they communicated with flashes and pulses, a language he could no longer speak. Each burst of light from another firefly was a painful reminder of his own darkness, a testament to what he had lost. He felt like a ghost in his own home, invisible and insignificant, a forgotten note in the grand song of the forest. The other fireflies, caught up in their own dazzling displays, didn't seem to notice his absence. Or if they did, they didn't know what to say. How do you speak to a light that has gone out? So he remained alone, shrouded in a quiet grief, convinced that his purpose had faded along with his glow. He had tried, in the beginning, to force the light out. He had strained and pushed, focusing all his energy on that one tiny spark he remembered. But nothing happened. The effort left him exhausted and more disheartened than before. Eventually, he stopped trying. It was easier to accept the darkness than to constantly fight for a light that refused to return. He believed he was destined to be a spectator, a silent observer of a world he could no longer be a part of. His wings felt heavy, his spirit even heavier. A vibrant forest, once a playground of light and wonder, now seemed like a vast, lonely expanse that only highlighted his own inadequacy and his profound sense of loss. He was just a tiny, dark speck in a world ablaze with light, and he had never felt more useless. He had truly and completely forgotten how to shine, and with it, he had forgotten himself. But one night, the storm came. It was not a normal storm of rain and wind. This was a storm of silence, a creeping cold fog that swallowed the moonlight and smothered the stars. The forest went completely, utterly dark. It was a blackness so deep, so absolute, that it felt like the end of the world. Every bright light, every dazzling display, every confident flash from the other fireflies disappeared. The fog was thick and suffocating, and it stole their light, dampening their spirits and their glow until nothing was left but a void. Panic spread through the firefly community like a ripple in a dark pond. Their greatest strength, their collective brilliance, had been rendered useless. They bumped into each other, lost and disoriented, their calls of light unanswered in the oppressive gloom. The forest they knew so well became a terrifying, unfamiliar maze. The familiar landmarks, the great oak, the whispering reeds by the creek, were all consumed by the impenetrable darkness. Fear was a palpable thing, a cold weight that settled on every heart. They had always relied on their light to see, to communicate, to find their way. Without it, they were blind, deaf, and alone, even when surrounded by their brethren. They were just as lost as the smallest firefly who had forgotten how to shine. Except his little light had not gone out, because it was never about brightness. It was about memory. In that total darkness, as fear gripped him, a single forgotten ember stirred within him. A flicker. It wasn't a conscious act. It wasn't a decision. It was an instinct, a deep, primal memory of warmth and safety, a tiny spark of hope ignited by the overwhelming despair. His glow was small, fragile, and timid. It was barely a pinprick in the vast, suffocating blackness, a single whispered word in a universe of silence. It trembled, threatening to go out with every gust of his own fearful breath. But it held. It did not vanish. While the other fireflies had their powerful lights extinguished by the damp, heavy fog, his small, forgotten flicker persisted. It wasn't strong enough to be dampened. It was so faint, so internal, that the storm didn't even notice it. It was the light of a single, lonely thought, the light of a quiet, desperate wish. And in a world that had gone completely blind, that tiny, hesitant spark was the only thing left. It was a candle in a hurricane, a single star in a sky wiped clean, his tiny glow still shining, and that little light, that forgotten, hesitant spark, guided everyone home. One by one, the other fireflies saw it, a faint pulse in the suffocating void. At first, they thought it was an illusion, a trick of their frightened minds, but it pulsed again, a soft, rhythmic beat. It was not a grand beacon, but it was real. It was a point of reference in the featureless dark. They began to move towards it, slowly, cautiously. That tiny flicker became their North Star, their anchor in the sea of black. The small firefly, who had felt so useless, was now at the center of a slow-moving constellation. He didn't lead with confidence or power. He simply was. He was the light. His light wasn't bright enough to illuminate the whole path, but it was enough to show the next step. Just the very next step, and that was all they needed. With each firefly that found their way to him, the collective hope grew, and his own small light seemed to grow a little stronger, fed not by his own strength, but by their shared journey. He guided them back to the safety of the great weeping willow, their communal home, a place they couldn't have found without his quiet, persistent glow. Listen, you don't need to shine the brightest. You don't need to have all the answers. You just need to remember your light when everyone else has forgotten theirs. Your small light, that flicker you think is gone, can still change someone's world.